crown falls to the ground, gold, heavy, stained with blood. In the distance, 1,000 voices chant one name. A man in armor steps forward, silhouetted by fire, his eyes tired but triumphant. He ruled the world, but no one ever asked what he lost to wear that crown. Because behind every throne is a war no one sees. Before we reveal who these 4 kings were, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, if you had the power to rule the world, would it change you? Hit subscribe because what you're about to see will challenge everything you thought you knew about history, power, and fate. He didn't rule from a palace. He ruled from the edge of the world. A man of purpose, a man of vision, a king unlike any before him or after. His name was Dhul-Qarnayn, and he was chosen not for his bloodline, but for his faith, his justice, and his unyielding strength. Mentioned in the Quran, his story is brief yet powerful. A king who journeyed to the farthest ends of the earth, not to conquer but to build, to protect, and to restore balance where darkness ruled. The people called him Dhul-Qarnayn, the one with 2 horns. Some say it was because his empire stretched across both east and west. Others believe it symbolized the 2 mighty eras of his reign, conquest and protection. We see him first reaching the place where the sun sets, a vast ocean where sky and water burn as one. There, he finds a people lost in chaos with no law, no guidance. And as their king, he listens first, then judges with fairness. He is firm but never cruel, strong but never unjust. His sword only strikes where justice demands it. From there, he journeys east, to the place where the sun rises on a people who live without shelter. Again, he listens. Again, he leads. But it was what happened between 2 great mountains that changed history forever. In a narrow valley, he meets a trembling civilization, their faces pale with fear. They do not fear war, or famine, or plague. They fear something far more terrifying: Yajuj and Majuj, Gog and Magog, savage forces of destruction, terrorists in human form. They overrun cities, tear down walls, and leave nothing behind but ruin. The people fall to their knees and beg, "Build a barrier between us and them. We'll pay you in gold, in silver, anything." But Dhul-Qarnayn doesn't want their wealth. He wants their effort, their sincerity. He says, "What my Lord has given me is better, but help me with your strength." And so begins one of the greatest engineering feats in history. Iron blocks rise like black stone. Molten copper pours like blood through the cracks. Sparks fly into the sky. And between the mountains, a wall is born. A wall that no one can climb, no one can break. A wall that seals away the chaos. For now, the people rejoice. But Dhul-Qarnayn doesn't claim glory. He doesn't celebrate. He gives thanks to Allah, because he knows the wall will one day fall. And when it does, no army on earth will be ready. Yet Dhul-Qarnayn's legacy is not just a wall of stone and fire. It is his humility, his piety, his refusal to be blinded by power. He ruled the world, yes, but he never let the world rule him. A true king, guided by the light of faith. He built cities that touched the sky. He ruled with fire, fear, and the illusion of godhood. His name was Nimrod, and he was the first man in history to believe he could rival the heavens. His empire rose in ancient Babylon, a land of wealth, idol worship, and unchecked arrogance. He wasn't just a king. He was a tyrant who believed he was divine. When people bowed to him, he believed it was his birthright. When they prayed, he wanted their prayers to reach him. But one man stood in his way, a man who would not bow, a young prophet named Ibrahim, peace be upon him. The confrontation between them was not one of armies. It was a war of truth against delusion. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, stood before the throne and said, "My Lord is the one who gives life and causes death." Nimrod laughed. He brought out 2 prisoners. He killed one. He spared the other. And with arrogance dripping from his tongue, he said, "See, I give life, and I take it." But Ibrahim, peace be upon him, looked him in the eye calm, fearless, and said, "Then bring the sun from the west." And just like that, Nimrod was silenced. He couldn't respond. He couldn't fake power any longer. Because real power doesn't just move armies, it commands the skies. But his arrogance didn't die that day. In his rage, he ordered the construction of a tower so high it would reach the heavens. He wanted to challenge Allah directly. Thousands of slaves perished building it. Brick after brick, the madness grew. He loaded arrows with fire and shot them into the sky, as if he could harm the Creator. But the tower never reached its goal. Allah sent a punishment. The structure collapsed. Languages were confused. The people scattered in chaos. And Nimrod, he was left to rot in the ruins of his own pride. But his end was not swift. It was humiliating. Allah sent against him a mosquito, tiny, silent, invisible. It entered through his nose into his skull and tormented him day and night. No physician could help him. No gold could cure him. He screamed. He begged. He slammed his head with stones just to feel a moment of peace. Eventually, he died. Not as a god, not as a legend, but as a man destroyed by what he thought was beneath him. Because the higher a man elevates himself without Allah, the harder he falls. That was Nimrod. He ruled the world, but he couldn't rule his own arrogance. And that is what killed him. He rose like a storm, fierce, relentless, and feared by all who heard his name. His throne stood in Babylon, a city so rich, so powerful, it seemed as if the sun itself bowed to its gates. His name was Nebuchadnezzar, known in Arabic as Bukht-Nassar, the king who ruled with an iron fist, and whose wrath could shatter entire civilizations. He did not seek counsel. He did not offer peace. When he marched toward your land, you either bowed or burned. But Nebuchadnezzar didn't just conquer cities. He crushed legacies. He erased lineages. And when he looked upon the house of Allah in Jerusalem, he saw not a place of worship but a prize. The children of Israel had disobeyed their Lord. They turned away from guidance and turned toward arrogance. And so Allah sent punishment upon them through this very king. Nebuchadnezzar invaded Jerusalem with fury. He didn't just break walls. He leveled them. He didn't just take prisoners. He enslaved generations. And the first temple, the sacred house built by the hands of prophets, was torn stone by stone under his command. Flames devoured the city. The cries of children echoed through the rubble. And the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred trust carried through generations, was lost. He dragged Bani Israel into captivity, shackled, broken, exiled into Babylon. A journey not of days, but of humiliation, a punishment written into their fate by their own defiance. Nebuchadnezzar stood on his balcony, watching the smoke rise over Jerusalem, a smile carved into his face. But arrogance always has a cost. In time, his pride consumed him. He began to see himself not just as a ruler, but as divine. And so Allah struck him down, not in battle, but with madness. For 7 years, he wandered the wild like an animal. His nails grew like claws, his hair like feathers. He forgot who he was. He forgot language. He forgot power. He crawled on all fours, eating grass like cattle, a king reduced to a beast, until Allah showed him mercy and returned his mind. He ruled again, but he was never the same, because power without gratitude always ends in humiliation. Nebuchadnezzar ruled the world, but he also ruined it. He was the whip of punishment sent by Allah, not because he was righteous, but because he was a lesson, a reminder to nations that when people stray too far from the truth, Allah may send them justice, even if it comes through the hands of a tyrant. He ruled the earth, but he bowed to the heavens. His name was Sulayman, peace be upon him, prophet, a king, a servant of Allah, whose dominion stretched across both the visible and the unseen. His power was unmatched. Men obeyed him. Animals answered him. Even the jinn, those hidden beings made of smokeless fire, served him with fear and awe. But it didn't start with a throne. It started with a dua, a simple, powerful prayer from a heart full of sincerity. My Lord, forgive me, and grant me a kingdom that no one after me will have. Indeed, you are the bestower." And Allah responded. From that day forward, Sulayman, peace be upon him, ruled not just empires, but elements. He spoke the language of birds. He understood the whispers of ants. He could summon the winds to carry him across lands in moments. And the jinn, once arrogant and wild, bowed and built palaces by his command. But with every miracle, his humility deepened. While kings before him demanded worship, Sulayman, peace be upon him, reminded the world, "This is by the favor of my Lord to test me. Will I be grateful or ungrateful?" He was not only powerful, he was wise. When a bird returned with news of a foreign queen who worshipped the sun, he did not rush to war. He sent a message, a letter not filled with threats, but with truth. "Do not exalt yourself above me, but come to me in submission to Allah." That letter reached the Queen of Sheba. She came to his palace, proud, graceful, but skeptical. And when she entered his hall, she froze. She thought she was walking on water. The floor beneath her feet was glass, so clear, so perfect it reflected the sky. She had never seen anything like it. No magician could create this. No idol could explain it. And in that moment, her pride melted. Her heart opened. She embraced the truth not because of fear, but because of what she saw with her own eyes. That was Sulayman, peace be upon him, a king who guided not through force, but through signs. And when his time came, he didn't leave the world with noise. He left in silence. He stood, leaning on his staff, overseeing the jinn who worked beneath him. They feared him, obeyed him, believed he watched their every move. But he was already gone. His soul had returned to its Lord. He remained standing, lifeless, until a tiny creature, a termite, chewed through the base of his staff. And then he fell. And when he collapsed, the jinn panicked, because they realized they had been working for a dead man. And if they had known the unseen, they would have stopped long ago. A final lesson from Allah, even the most powerful among men, those who command sky and earth, still answer to one king above them all. Sulayman, peace be upon him, ruled the world, but he never forgot who gave it to him. And that is what made him great. Power doesn't come quietly. It enters like thunder, shaking hearts, changing men, and exposing what lies beneath the surface. Some wear it like armor, others like poison. The four kings who ruled the world, Dhul-Qarnayn, Sulayman, peace be upon him, Nimrod, and Nebuchadnezzar, each held the same power in their hands. But what they did with it revealed who they really were. Power is a mirror. It reflects what's already inside. Dhul-Qarnayn was given dominion over the east and west. He traveled to the ends of the earth. He could have demanded tribute. He could have enslaved nations. But he didn't. He built walls to protect the weak. He rejected gold, choosing service over greed. His heart was anchored by faith, and power only made him more righteous. Then came Nimrod. He saw power not as a responsibility, but as a throne to heaven. It inflated his ego, twisted his mind. He believed he was divine. He challenged a prophet. He defied Allah. And in the end, the one who thought he could control the sun was destroyed by a mosquito. Sulayman, peace be upon him, had a kingdom no one else would ever possess. But he never let it possess him. He ruled the world, but he remained a servant of Allah. And that's what made him different. That's what made him immortal in wisdom and legacy. The wind, the jinn, the animals, he commanded them all. But with every miracle, he fell further into sujud. He never claimed it as his own. He knew it was a test. And when he stood before people, he stood in gratitude, not pride. Then there was Nebuchadnezzar. He ruled Babylon with fire and steel. He destroyed Jerusalem, enslaved Bani Israel, burned the sacred temple. He saw himself as invincible. But when pride overtook him, Allah reduced him to a crawling beast. He lost his mind, his crown, his dignity, because the crown doesn't just sit on the head. It weighs on the soul. And if the soul isn't grounded in truth, it crumbles beneath the weight. That's what power does. It either humbles you or it hollows you. It turns some men into protectors and others into monsters. Dhul-Qarnayn ruled the world and remained a servant. Sulayman, peace be upon him, ruled the unseen and still begged Allah for forgiveness. But Nimrod and Nebuchadnezzar, they turned power into pride and pride into ruin. So when we speak of greatness, we must ask, what makes a king great? Is it the lands he conquers, the armies he commands, or the way he stands before his Lord when the world is already in his hands? Some rulers bend the world, others bend their knees. Only one of those paths leads to peace, because true power is not found in what you can take, but in what you can walk away from. And those who truly ruled the world are the ones who ruled their own hearts. They ruled empires. They commanded armies. Their words became law, their names carved into stone. People bowed in their presence. The world bent to their will. But no matter how high they rose, they all came down to the same place, the dirt, the grave, the silence, because death doesn't care about crowns. It knocked at every one of their doors, and not one of them could keep it closed. Nimrod, the king who thought he was a god, he built towers to challenge the heavens. He executed prophets. He imagined he was immortal. But when Allah sent a mosquito, a single invisible creature, his illusion collapsed. It entered his head, tormenting him from the inside. He lost his mind, his dignity. He died banging his skull with stones, screaming for relief, not from a sword, not from an army, but from the smallest of Allah's soldiers. Then came Nebuchadnezzar, a tyrant who turned Jerusalem into ashes. He took an entire nation as slaves, destroyed their sanctuary, thought himself untouchable. But his punishment didn't come from men, came from within. He was stripped of reason, driven into the wild. His body grew wild with hair. His nails turned to claws. He roamed the fields like a beast, forgotten and cursed, until his arrogance was shattered. And he finally remembered who his Lord was. And what about Dhul-Qarnayn, the righteous king who spanned the earth? He built walls no army could break, led nations with wisdom, yet his end came quietly. No story of his death remains, only his legacy. He didn't chase glory. He fulfilled his mission and disappeared into time, a silent ending for a humble soul. And Sulayman, peace be upon him, the prophet king, the man who could speak to birds, command jinn, and direct the wind, he died not in weakness, but standing, leaning on his staff, overseeing the jinn as they worked. They thought he was still watching, still alive, but his soul had already returned to Allah. Only when a tiny termite chewed through the wood did his body fall, and when it did, the jinn realized the truth. Even the greatest among them was only a servant of Allah. For kings, for deaths, different paths, same ending, because no matter how vast your empire, how feared your name, how golden your crown, you will leave it all behind. The throne becomes a coffin, the sword becomes dust, and all that remains is the record of your deeds. The day will come when every ruler is brought forward, not with guards or parades, but alone, bare, silent. And on that day, only one kingdom will remain, and only one king will speak. To whom belongs all sovereignty this day? To Allah, the One, the Irresistible. They ruled the world, but only for a moment. Dhul-Qarnayn walked the ends of the earth, building walls that held back chaos. Sulayman, peace be upon him, ruled wind, jinn, and beasts, all while kneeling in gratitude. Nimrod believed he was a god, and was destroyed by a whisper of Allah's power. Nebuchadnezzar shattered temples and enslaved nations, only to crawl on all fours, forgotten like a mad dog in the fields. For kings, one world, but in the end, none of them took their crowns with them, because the throne never truly belonged to them. It never did. Power is borrowed, glory is temporary, and kingdoms fade like shadows at sunset. The world has always chased rulers. Men have always chased greatness. But the true king was never one of them. He has no army, because he commands the angels. He has no palace, because all the heavens and the earth belong to him. He doesn't sit on a throne made of gold. He sits on the throne that was there before time began. Allah, the One, the Eternal, the Sovereign of all. Every king, every emperor, every warlord who ever lived, rose by his permission and fell by his will. Some were lifted as a reward, others as a punishment, and all of them were a test for themselves, and a test for the people under them. And now new kings rise, new thrones are built. Nations scream the names of rulers who seem untouchable. But wait, watch closely, they too will fall, their voices will fade, and one day, their names will be just echoes in forgotten stone. Because the world is not ruled by men. It never was. It belongs to the one who created it, the one who sustains it, and the one who will end it. So remember this, you don't need a crown to be remembered. You don't need an empire to matter. What you need is to know your king, because when the skies split open, and the graves are overturned, and every soul is called forward, no one will care how many lands you ruled, only who you submitted to, and on that day, the only voice that will echo across creation will say, "To whom belongs all dominion this day? To Allah, the One, the Irresistible." So now you've heard the truth. For kings ruled the world, but only one king rules forever. Their legacies rose and fell like empires, but yours is still being written. If the story moved you, if it opened your eyes, your heart, don't let it end here. Right arrow, subscribe to the channel. Right arrow, share this video. Right arrow, remind someone you love. Power fades, but faith lives on. Drop a comment below. Which of the 4 kings left the strongest mark on you? And what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? Until next time, may your heart stay humble, your path stay guided, and your crown belong only to the one who gave you life.